Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to make a gear progression video with a twist. Now this one is, we are going to be starting out on seasonals, right? So our first episode is going to be with 100 billion silver. Let's assume we have that. We're going to look at the market and I'll talk about all the item upgrades that you can get as well. And I think things that would be optimal in terms of value to AP and everything. So with that said, I'm going to assume that pretend you guys, instead of 2 Valas, you're going to have like pen Blackstars, because you should have 2 pen Blackstars by this point, but your other gear is for the most part the same. So you get 1 pen Blackstar for hitting level 61, right? That's a free one. And then your second one should be from the pen, or not pen, deck 2 Vala that you exchange. That one's significantly cheaper. So let's say you graduated from seasons and this is what your gear looks like, more or less. Let's take that off because it's a little bit less relevant. And you have 2 pen Blackstars, right? So where would you go from here with 100 billion silver? Let's take a look. I'm going to look at all the prices on everything and things, at least here on the NA server. This is what I would do. So keep in mind, if you're going to follow this, it might be a little bit different depending on the server you play. So you can do everything I'm doing, just like looking at the prices, and we're going to compare everything. So notably, in terms of gear pieces, yeah, just pretend these are Blackstars. And then you have a Kutum right here. So for example, let's say you recently did the quest, or you did the event, and you have 1 pen boss gear, or 2 if you did the Magnus. These are free. All you have to do is 1 for a quest, and then this one you just kind of got over time. So we're going to assume you have 2 pen boss pieces. And then if you used all of these are the equivalent of endgame seasonal gear, just in boss form that's upgradable. So yeah, let's take off 2 of these pieces. It doesn't really matter which 2, just because we're going to assume these are already pen boss gear, right? And pretend this one is also a, pen, or I guess Tet or pen Kutum. All right, so with that criteria in mind, what we're going to be looking at, sub-weapons. Usually the weapons give you the most, AP or monster AP. So in terms of gearing up, what you're going to want to do is increase your bracket. So if you don't know what bracket AP is, you see this number, you see like 252, right? And then you see that number plus 57 in the bracket. Every 4 AP, you go up a new bracket, and that's like additional bonus AP. So more is better. So yeah, let's see. It doesn't really matter which weapon. All the weapons are roughly the same. The first thing you're going to be looking at is, I guess, for early game beginners, if you already have a Tet Kutum, how much is a pen Kutum? It is, let's just say 4 billion for the sake of, let me pull up the calculator actually. Okay, so we can, keep track of how much we spend and everything. Actually, no, there's another way I like to do this. We're gonna pull out the old notepad. Funny, because I actually have been taking notes since like 2020 on gear stuff that I need, and we even made a video of Blackstars. Okay, so with that said, let's write this down. So 100 billion silver budget for gear. Okay, so the first thing we want to look at is pen Kutum is 4 billion. And where do I put this? Oh god. A lot of things. It's like having spreadsheets open. All right, anyway. So the first thing you're going to look at is probably a weapon for, I guess this is for PvE. If you do it for PvP as well, maneuver is an option. But let's talk about PvE, because that'll allow you to grind more and make more silver. So a pen Kutum is 4 billion, and all you would have to do is upgrade that in the future. But for a start, pen Kutum is fine. And if you have a Tet Blackstar or Pen Blackstar, that's a lot higher. So the equivalent, like a Tet Blackstar, is the equivalent of a Pen Kutum. The difference is at endgame, you're going to want it to go for Pen, but that's more expensive. So for a new player, spending 14 billion, it's not a bad thing, but if you're on a budget, you don't really want to do this. And this is the difference between, 15 billion or something and then 4 billion. So that's my choice for your offhand. And then I'm going to look at the price of pen armors real quick, just because. So let's say, how we picked 2 of them because they gave it for free, one from the Magnus, one from the event. So you should have 2 of them just right off the bat. Let's see. Let's look at the prices of everything. And then that should help you pick the 2 you should get already. So Uragon is 10. Let's write that down actually. So we're just writing these down, right? And I think for newer players, you should always go DR and the Uragon route because evasion is good, but it's something you get and transition into later on in the game just because DR scales a lot better and they'll help you grind. Whereas evasion, it's, something that stacks really well at endgame. So it's something you transition to later on. So same with this one. Beg's Glove is something you should go for. Let's write that down. Beg is also 10 billion. And we're not looking at Tet just because you already have this. This is the equivalent of that with a little bit, like if you look at this one. Yeah, they're the exact same stats, so it's less relevant. You should go Red Nose always over Dim Tree, and then let's see. They're roughly all the same, but we're just gonna write it down. Red Nose is 10 billion. Griffin is 9 billion. So what you're gonna want to do is get, the ones that are, more expensive, you get 2 of those. I would personally go for, actually, I would go with the things you're gonna upgrade first into Fallen God, but that's not, something we're gonna talk about just yet. So getting DR to pen will allow you, or getting your gear to pen will allow you to grind higher end spots and everything. And I think it's overall good simply because, it just, like, you can survive better, you grind better, you make more silver. That's always good, right? So people are always like, oh, boost AP first, worry about DP later. No, if you can grind higher end spots, you make more silver. That's just how it is. All right, so let's look at accessories. And then once you write all this down, then I think it's something important. So anyway, with that said, what we're going to be looking at is distortion earrings, because these are still actually used. Baja's Dawn and distortions are the same thing, just 2 different items. Tet Distos are 12 billion. Let's write that down. Tet Disto, 12 billion. So what you guys should do, assuming the prices aren't too crazy, is Old Moon your accessory. So you know how you get all of these, or like 2 of them? What I would do is you should get 2 crescent rings early on, because that'll just allow you to get more AP. It's a temporary upgrade. And so you'll have 2 of these, and then half of your gear is already done, right? So actually, hold on. The best way to do this is let's take all of this off, and then let's pretend to equip it based on, what we have done, right? So, like, we have all these pieces done, and then we have, let's say our rings are our crescent rings from the Old Moon. So we have those done so far. And then we have, if you decided you want to spend your silver on all of these at pen, you could do that as well. So there's that. I don't think Tet Distos are the best option just yet, but if we were to go Kharazad route, how much would it be? I don't actually remember what the cost is of Kharazad at base, but we'll compare it to Tet Debo. Tet Debo, this is the first one you should be going for. Let's say 30 billion. We're gonna think about that one because that's a lot of silver, especially for newer players. So one thing that people overlook a lot is actually artifacts. So this thing is actually really good, especially if you can get it for like 5 billion silver instead of 10 billion. Kabua times is 5 billion times 2 of them because you need 2 of them. 5 to 6 billion times 2, right? Okay, so that low key is something I think is actually good because it gives you +7 and then you can put extra Lightstones in it. And so I think that's actually good. And if you don't have a lot to invest into endgame Lightstones, here's what I would pick. Actually, the cheap ones are where is it? Ones that give monster damage. Are those red? I think those are red. Oh my god. You know what? Let me just show you. The ones that are cheap are the ones that give... I think it's blue, actually. Blue or red? Yeah, okay, never mind. It's red. I'm dumb. Anyway, extra AP against monsters. These are 5 mil each, right? Let's write that down. Predations. So this is the budget level, and you spend 20 million on that one. It's very cheap. You probably have some already, so that's the thing, and you don't really have to worry about that. So I think going for these artifacts is actually a good upgrade because it gives you 7 AP against monsters, and then these are like a permanent best in slot right now for PvE, that is. And it gives you a lot of extra defensive stats, which I think is also good. Don't worry about these Dekia ones. These are really endgame. And so next thing we want to do is look at Alchemy stones. So I would say get a Vel, but it's actually very difficult to get a Vel at some point. Like, if you can't order it, what is your second option? So ultimately, Vel is the way to go. Let's write that down. Vel is 16 billion, right? 16 and a half. Second, here's the second option. What I would go for you guys as well. Khan's Heart is 5 billion. But a third option is the Ator's Power Stone. And that one is 1 AP. So if you want to see what it looks like, the Ator's Power Stone, this one, if you do the Valencia questline followed by the Ulakita questline, this is what it gives you. This is a recoverable or like a rechargeable one. And it's a good one to start with before you go into endgame, right? So this one gives you 1 sheet AP and it's free. You get it by questing, right? All right, so you get that by questing. Splendid is something you go for at very end game, but like it's very hard to get it even if you are an end game player. So what I would use, if you are still using a Spirit Stone from Seasons and everything, and you just want the extra 5 AP, that's fine. But you know, these are also good upgrades because Vel is 3 AP, Khan is 2, Ator's is 1. So those are the steps I would take. After this, in terms of gear, like, what I would do is probably just make the Kharazads itself. I don't exactly remember. Let me look at this. I think you can look it up in game. Kharazad. Okay, so 300 magical shards, 50 Essence of Dawn, and a Debo for whatever. Deboreka is like 500 to 600 million. 50 Essence of Dawn is 5 billion. And then this one is 300s. Okay, let's write this down. So a Kharazad base is probably like 7 billion or less, depending on your server. So these are probably maxed out, so 5 billion. Magical shards really just depends. I'm rounding up, so it's probably like 1 billion. And then one Debo is like 500 or 600. So yeah, I round it up. Realistically, it's probably around 6.5 billion. I'm rounding it to 7 just in case of server prices, right? So yeah, with that said, this is probably the way to go to get the Kharazad base and then enhance it yourself. And I truly do think that on average, enhancing Kharazad all the way to deck is cheaper. And I say this on average because I looked into the numbers, I looked into the fail stacks and how to build fail stacks as well. I even talked to other people, and I think everyone agrees that assuming you are, you know, average across the board, it's cheaper than just buying everything. So yeah, with that, a Kharazad base is 7 billion each. Obviously you would work on, you know, the necklace first, followed by like belt, or, you know, because you already have the crescent rings, and then the earrings last. So we'll talk about that after we finish up all the prices. Next thing I want to talk about is, let's see. I think I want to talk about crystals, but that's kind of one of those things where crystals are good, but you want to be near the, you know, more or less done with base gear first. So yeah, that's important. So this is all before you go into Fallen God, simply because Fallen God is just expensive and we're on a budget here. So with that said, let's calculate our totals for now before crystal. So we have 4 billion from a Kutum. You have 2 of these, so let's take out 20 billion. So then that's another 19. So that's 23 billion. And then I wouldn't do these yet, just because I would go with the Kharazads. You know, the Kharazads are cheaper. They're probably a little bit less AP at the start. However, your goal is to upgrade them, and, you know, like, these are dead end and you have to upgrade them, so it's more expensive. And then let's say we're going to add another 12, so that's 35 billion for that one. And then I struggle to add a Vel into this one, but the reason why is it's hard to get unless you get lucky from either a drop or something else. I think temporarily, let's add the Consort. If you want to spend more, you could do that as well. So currently, with everything we have a 40 bill budget, right? Or like we spent 40 billion of 100. So that's the math. You just minus, let's just put an X over here, an X over here, because you got those for free. And then so everything else is that. And then these are all X's because we didn't add those. Okay. And then let's see, how many Kharazads do you need? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it a good idea to get all 4 of them at the same time? I think I'm not sure if I would get all of them at the same time, simply because Essence of Dawn is actually just kind of hard to get right now. If you're watching this like a year down the line, obviously prices are going to be way off, but like assuming Essence of Dawn sit on the market, it might be worth it. So we'll just add, you know, maybe let's start with 2 first. And then let's say you're still wearing like Tuvala or Kaposha or whatever. So then let's add another 14. So we're at 50, roughly in the 50 billion range, right? So we're a little bit over half our budget. I think with that said, that's a good start. And then what I would upgrade next is probably what is a Kharazad? It goes up by 1 every time, except for necklace sometimes goes up by 2. So I'm thinking, like, since you already have all of these, you're not ready for Sovereign yet, and I still think there are more offensive upgrades you can do before you can, you know, start thinking about Fallen God, and then Sovereign weapons. There's more upgrades. So yeah, I think one thing we should look at is probably crystals at this point. That's probably your next upgrade. And let me just see. I also assume you have infinite potions already too. Like if you don't have it, probably start. You should add that to your budget, but I assume you have this already. So that's another, you know. Yeah, that's another like 30 billion if you don't have it. So I'm not going to calculate that, assuming you have it. If you don't, yeah, you might want to start getting that like right now. Okay, so with that said, we have all of this done. What are some other things that we can get for upgrades? So let's talk about crystals. Believe it or not, crystals are actually something good. They don't affect your sheet AP, but it does like add to your total stats when you're grinding. So I think like another like 50 monster AP, and then another like 26. This is more like I'm on my season character right now, so it's not total calculated. So you're like, when you get Kharazads, you get to unlock these, and if you convert, then they just give it to you. So the next thing you want to get is, you know, let's calculate the total of all the crystals right now. Luckily, Giran's tiers are super cheap. If you were to ask me this like 2 years ago, they were 5 bill. Let's see. What is this called? Oh my god, there's so many. Okay, Glorious Crystals. These are 365 each. So that's 700. And then calculate this one. That's like 1 billion silver. Each one of these is another billion, so 4 billion. These are very mandatory for PvE. So 1 billion, another 4 billion, 5. 6, 7. They're a little bit cheaper than 1 billion each, but let's, for the sake of simplicity, numbers, we can calculate that. I wouldn't talk about void crystals yet. These are very endgame and they aren't even sold on the market regularly, but precise destruction are the budget alternatives, and you know, you can get 2 of those, so that's like 2, 6, 8, roughly 8. I would say between all of that, your standard PvE crystal setup is we're gonna put this at 10 billion. So this is something you will use all the way through endgame. So it's like, until they make better things along the line from now, like I would actually consider most of these like, you know, relevant endgame stuff. So even I use it, minus a few things that are expensive, like the Crystal Void. We can add more to that, but for the sake of beginner things, that's another one. So that's like 64 billion. For the sake of easy numbers. And then if you convert your Kharazad from the NPC down in Ulakida, you get these for free. If you make them yourself, you're gonna have to buy them. But with that said, let's look at it. What are these called? On crystal. You don't even have 6 slots yet as a beginner without full Kharazad. So let's just put this. Ideally, you really do want the Jin one. So, like, the hard truth is we're going to have to add 3 billion to it. Plus 3 billion for each one times up to 6. So, for Jin AP. So I guess we'll just add 2 because I said we would only get 2. So we have 70 billion, right? So on our budget, we're upgrading our gear. And so all of our pieces are for the most part done for now. And like obviously if you had 100 billion, you could, just enhance your gear even further. So these are what you would buy, and then what you would upgrade later on is all the other pieces. So that's kind of how I look at it. You should upgrade your pieces with the remaining silver, right? But assuming that you still grind and make more silver along the way, what is your next steps? So, next step. Pen Blackstar or Fallen God armors. Okay. So after that, let's see. I guess like the more Kharazad you have, it like you could hit that 100 billion budget just if you got all of them like right off the bat. But I don't think that's a good idea, particularly early on, just because I think there are better value upgrades you can make in the meantime. So let's see. The first piece you want to look for is obviously the flame. Besides the resonance, because this one is the end game one. This is the one you want to upgrade last. The one you could buy off the market first is either for the gloves, the Hondrick one, or Flame of Despair for your chest piece. So for Fallen God, it's probably another like 1.5 billion or 1 billion depending on what you're doing. And then the Capra stones are like 2.3, so it's it kind of equals out. So let's say we look at, say you take another 20 billion to upgrade it. So you know how we got that one piece over here from Penn? It would cost you to flame and all that stuff. So I don't let me actually, it might actually be cheaper to just buy a base Fallen God or base Fallen God at 20 billion. This might actually be a better like alternative, I'm not gonna lie. So if you could buy that one, we could add that. Or 80 bill with Fallen God. Okay. So yeah, that's the numbers right here. And let's say we have 20 billion left over. I realistically think if you are at this point and you followed the instructions of all these things, right? I think your next order would be either putting a Vel on, or I think Garmoth's hearts are, I wanted to say this, but the hard truth is these are not easy to get. Same with the Vel's heart. So this is why I'm not kind of including this one. It's just simply that it's not easy to get. So, you put that on an order and just kind of forget about it. Vel or Garmoth heart. So yeah, these are your next upgrades. And then after you get all of them there, you want to go for up to try armors. And then after that, I would probably consider Pen through Nav Kharazad. So all of these is going way past your 100 billion. This is literally endgame steps. But I wanted to mostly, let's break it down over here, simply because this is what you should do on the 100 billion. going after this, it's really just like you'll sink trillions of silver. So maybe a part 2 when you have a higher budget. But you know, we can edit this later, right? So let's say we're at 80 billion right now. Let's look at the cup prices. Oh dear, that's not good. Okay. The first thing you want to get, well, the first thing you would want to do is you would get the yellow ones because yellow is more damage, and maybe a lone tide for your belt. So let's see. The ones you want to upgrade are the ones that give. Let's see, all these. Crit damage is good. Well, they're all really the same price, so you just want to keep buying them. Accessory cups at 5 bill times 6, or well, this is probably hitting your 70 to slash 100 110 bill with cups, so that should be in your budget, right? So so yeah, I think that if you followed along, this is 100 billion silver. Obviously, these prices are, you know, given to change during times, and like, you know, I kind of rounded up for a little bit, so you may have more or less. But with the 100 billion, this is roughly what you're gonna get. So you should be full pen armor, double pen Blackstars because they're free. You should have a pen Kutum right now. And then 2 Kabuas with the AP or monster damage Lightstones. That's the entry level. I would probably say the Khan's Heart for a temporary upgrade until you get Vel. I didn't add that. I didn't add Vel simply because it's just, you can't just buy it off the market. There's a little bit of luck to it. So, and then your Kharazad, we added 2 of them. So we added 2 of them for our Kharazads just because I didn't think it was a good idea to upgrade all of them at once, just because you have to enhance them and it's expensive. But also, we also have 2 Old Moon accessories that you would get from here, so double crescent rings, and then you're still using your seasonal earrings or, you know, Kaposha, whatever you choose to do. But all of this, this could go to accessory cups. You're gonna want to get all of them. But with that said, this is, you know, like it roughly does actually add up to 100 billion, maybe a little over or under based on, you know, current prices on your server. But that's about it. I think I did a good job in doing real calculations on what your actual min-max stats are. Obviously, it might be a little bit off, but, you know, maybe for part two, if we edit this later, we'll talk about the price of upgrading all your gear, adding the extra heart, the Vel, and everything. So if you guys enjoyed it, drop a quick like. I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed it, drop a quick like again for, you know, all this stuff. And maybe in part 2, we'll up the budget to 300 billion silver, and then we'll talk about that. So anyway, this is part 1. If you want to take a screenshot, that's literally NA prices right now, and that's about it. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.